Have you ever put everything into something, practiced it, revised it more than 30 times, tested it in front of people, and even went into the real thing but still did not win? That happened to me this year. And somewhere between all the preparation and the losing, I picked up three things that I don't think I would have learned any other way. Hello, beautiful people. I am Love Ravina, and you're listening to Version by Version, the Love Ravina podcast. In this episode, I want to share with you the things that I have learned from my very first speech contest. Yes, I competed this year, and it was definitely one of the treasures and the gems that I've had for this year. Now, I actually went through several levels of the competition. It technically began last year until finally I reached the district level or the national level. And I did not win at the district level. I did not place either. However, looking back, I don't think the result was the most valuable lesson from the experience, but instead, it was the experience itself that revealed something about who I am as a communicator and what are the things that I still need to develop to become better, effective, and even a memorable communicator. And so I'd like to deep dive into the specifics, especially the three lessons that stayed with me the most in this episode. I have my notes with me here because I don't want to miss the important points that I would like to share with all of you. And so before I dive right into the very first lesson, I would just like to also begin by prefacing that going through the whole process of the competition, the rounds, the losses, even the feedback, I would have to say that I started asking myself a question that I'm still sitting with. So I thought, is becoming a better communicator just really about speaking better? Or is it something else? Because my experience in my very first speech contest revealed something different that I am also still working through. It's about my responsibility as a speaker, my reference points, and how I can better use the feedback as well. So let me walk you through each of the lessons, starting with lesson one. The speaker is responsible for making sure that the message has the chance to land. Now, in the competition or in my speech, I actually inserted laughing points or humor as much as I could. I know for a fact, as a speaker, I'm not naturally gifted into becoming or like being a funny or humorous speaker, and that is something that I consciously really work on. And so I did that in my speech. I inserted several laughing points all throughout my speech, and I even tested it in different audiences. I tried giving my speech with the humor in several small audiences, and during those practice sessions, the humor actually was effective. However, during the actual competition at the national level, there was dead silence. It was so crazy, and I felt a bit embarrassed. Like my initial reaction at the back of my head while I was delivering the speech was, okay, what do I do? The audience did not get the humor. They did not laugh at the joke that I was saying. And so I initially thought it was because of the audience. They did not get the joke. But then looking back at the experience, I realized that it wasn't really just about the audience because I thought about it hard, and I have realized that in the competition itself, the audience has changed. I was only used to giving my speech to smaller audiences with 30 people at most, but that competition, it has 300 people. And so, because the audience has changed, the environment has changed as well. In my practice sessions, I was only used to delivering the speech in a small room or area, but the entire place during the competition was huge because it has to cater to 300 people. And of course, the context has changed as well. Meaning to say, I wasn't just only practicing the speech, but I was already competing. So you can imagine that those 300 people, they have their favorites. I'm not sure if they intentionally did not laugh to support the other contestant. Like, I don't know about that, but the environment or the vibe, the entire context was really different because it was the actual competition. Okay, so a lot of factors have changed in the competition. And while I was giving my speech, I realized I could not pivot mid speech, meaning to say I could not change the joke or I could not add more jokes because I was so conscious about the time as well. The competition has a time limit, 7 minutes and 30 seconds. If you go over time, just 1 second, you will automatically be disqualified. So I don't want to risk going over time just because I wanted to add more jokes or change some parts of my speech on the spot. And eventually I realized, okay, maybe as well, one of the things I couldn't pivot mid speech is because at that specific instant, at that moment, I did not have yet the skill or the ability to adjust within those constraints. And so that's when I realized, okay, this is one of the things that I need to develop as a communicator and as a speaker as well. I need to be able to learn how to know the audience and understand the context or how it has changed and have the ability to pivot or adjust or basically adapt to the environment because it is the speaker's responsibility to ensure that their message and parts of the message land. It is received effectively and well by the audience. It's never the audience's responsibility to understand what you're trying to tell them. It is your responsibility as the speaker to make sure that they get what you're trying to say. And I used to think, looking back at my experience, I actually used to think about what I only want to say and how I want to say it without regard to how the audience will receive it. But after the competition, that's when I learned and really grasped, like understood that it is my responsibility as the speaker to consider and really take into account the experience of the other side, which is the audience. And so now, every time I prepare for a speech or a presentation, and even like my podcast episodes, I now intentionally ask myself, okay, what do I want my audience to know? What do I want them to feel after listening to me? What do I want them to experience? And at the same time, what do I want them to do after hearing my speech or listening or watching my podcast episode? That has now been one of the key elements that I make sure I have in preparing my speech, my presentation, or my podcast episode. So, yeah, that was like my first lesson. And that really was so memorable and it hit hard on me because I experienced the struggle of not being able to connect with the audience on the spot right in that presentation. And of course, the contest or the competition was not really just about how I make sure that my message would land or received well by the audience. It was also about who I was standing next to, which is the audience. So there you have it, our first lesson. The speaker is responsible for giving the message a chance to land. We go to the second lesson. Lesson number 2. Better speakers give better reference points. Let me say that again. Better speakers give better reference points. Now, prior to the competition, I've already known that there are areas that I need to improve or work on based from feedback and based from my own observations as well. And then when I competed, when I started joining the competitions from the club level to the area level to the division level and to the district level, I have met a number of better and stronger speakers than me, especially in certain areas of the public speaking or communication skill. All right. There were speakers who were funnier than me. There were speakers who were more expressive in their like facial expressions or, how they share or give their speech effectively using their facial expressions. There were also speakers who were more effective in terms of using their body or in terms of moving. There were speakers who were stronger in terms of connecting with the audience, or even there were speakers who had better flow of their speech or structure of their speech. And those were areas that I know I still had to continuously develop and improve on. Now, the thing is, it was important to me that I get to meet and encounter these speakers, because if I only practice, for example, on my own, or if I only look at my own experience, then my reference point is myself only, like who I was yesterday, what kind of speaker I was the other day, right? That's it. But if I want to really improve my audience connection, for example, or my humor, for example, or my body movement, like I want to put it to the next level, then I could not afford to only just look at myself. I need to look at someone who's already doing that. And that's exactly what the competition gave me. It showed me that those skills that I wanted to improve were not any more abstract ideas. Meaning to say, I mean, those things are not only things that I just imagine, but I have now seen someone who have already embodied that, and someone who may have to some extent, to some degree, mastered the skill. And now I could tell myself, okay, love, that's how audience connection should be like, or that's how humor sounds like, or that's how stage presence look like. That's exactly how you want it to be. So look at that speaker and try to emulate how they do it. But of course, I'd like to be very clear about this, okay? I am not trying to be the other speaker. I'm not trying to copy their personality or their way of speaking or whatsoever. Like, I'm not trying to be like them. Instead, I'm only looking at their strong points that I would like to develop myself and use it as my reference point. Because can you imagine wanting to improve and getting to the next level, but you don't have a clear picture of what the next level looks like? That is difficult. And so the competition has given me the opportunity, I would even have to say the gift of witnessing what the next level looks like. And so right now, I have a list of the areas or skill sets that I need to work on, what it looks like, and basically my reference points. So who I could look at or try to ask for advice or insights about how they're doing it so that I could improve on that area myself. Okay, so the lesson here is that sometimes we cannot fully understand what the next level is, or how we want to improve the skill by only thinking and looking at ourselves. That because we have our own limitations, and that is quite difficult if we only look at ourselves. And so we then have to see someone who already embodies the skills that we want to develop, and then, look at them and see what they're doing or how they're doing it. All right. It's the same with, if you want to be rich, then you look at rich people. If you want to be smart, then you look at how smart people act, right? You look at other people. Basically, they are your reference points or your role models, per se. So there you have it. Lesson number 2. And I'm really grateful for the experience, because now these stronger and better speakers are now my reference points. So I could go and move to the next level. Now, we go to lesson number 3. Lesson number 3 is feedback requires discernment. Okay. Actually, this lesson was quite messier than I thought, but it's about feedback. Feedback requires discernment. What do I mean by that? During the during my preparation for the competition, I have received a lot of feedback. Okay? And I'm so grateful for the people, because I've had several practice sessions, and in every practice session I'd receive feedback, and I'm really grateful for the people who have shared their feedback, their gift of feedback with me, because I know that they have my best interests at heart. I have never met someone who gave me feedback but they wanted me to fail. No one. Like, all of them wanted me to succeed or even have fun and have a meaningful experience. Or most importantly, they gave me feedback because they can see potential in me and they know that I can still get better. Right? And so again, I am grateful for all of them. But one of the hardest and messiest lessons I have learned about feedback is that just because a feedback was given with the best intention does not mean it is something that you can act on or act upon. What I'm trying to say is, not all feedback deserves the same equal or level attention and commitment from you. Because yes, some feedback may be nice, but they're not necessarily something that I need to move to the next level. And some feedback may be feedback that I don't like, but it does not mean that just because I don't like it does not mean I don't need it. Right? Like, you get what I mean? So again, not all feedback deserves the same level of attention or commitment. And so that's why I said feedback requires discernment. Because as a speaker, as someone who wants to get better and just wants to keep leveling up, you also have to have a clear understanding of what better looks like, what the next level looks like and feel like. Who do you want to be, or what kind of communicator or speaker do you want to be? You have to be very crystal clear about that. And that is also part of the lesson that I've gained from the experience. I remember at one point, I stopped practicing for, I think that was 5 days, because I was so confused. I have received a lot of feedback, like gifts, but I was so confused about what to do with them. Because some emphasized audience connection, some emphasize about being funny, some emphasize about being serious, some emphasize about eye contact, this kind of movement, this kind of voice modulation or vocal variety, whatsoever. It was a lot to take in. And it was not because of them that they gave me those feedback. No. Again, I'm sincerely, truly grateful for that. I learned that it has something to do with me. Because at that time, while I was practicing and preparing for the competition, I realized, I haven't defined yet the kind of communicator and speaker I want to be. And because I did not have yet a crystal clear picture or vision of who I want to be, I couldn't take full advantage of the gifts that was given to me. It's like eating in a buffet full of delicious food, but you're not hungry or you don't know what to eat exactly. So you're confused what to pick. That's the kind of experience I went through preparing for the competition. And so, right now, one of the things, two rather, of the things that I'm working on are first, I'm working on my personal definition of a communicator and a speaker. Like, who do I want to be exactly? That's not something that I've already discovered because it does not happen like overnight or just because I join a competition, then I already know who I want to be. That's still something that I'm working towards too. And the second is developing the skill of discernment. Once I have a clear vision of who I want to be, then I can identify which piece of feedback I will consider, which one I can park for now, or, revisit in the future. And I can then take full advantage of the feedback because I don't think the way to express my gratitude to the people who gave me their suggestions or recommendations is not really by using them, but really thinking about them and giving it enough time to be considered and enough time to for me to decide whether I'll use it or not. And I have to be very intentional about it. And so the key insight here is that receiving the feedback is not the same as knowing what to do with it. Not always, at least in my experience. And so to evaluate what I need or what we need as speakers, communicators, and even leaders, we have to be able to have an emerging sense of who we want to be or what kind of person we want to be. So I guess that's it. Those are the three lessons that I have learned from, or I have gained rather, from my very first speech contest. One again is the speaker is responsible for giving the message a chance to land. Lesson number two is better speakers give better reference points. And number three is feedback requires discernment. And again, these are lessons that I have learned and I still am learning. Just because the competition is done does not mean my work is done as well. No. In fact, in every opportunities I get to speak, to interact with other people, I look at these three lessons and apply them at present as well because I know that these lessons will help me propel forward and at the same time will help me become the speaker that I want to be. And so I guess that's it. I hope I did not miss anything. Yeah, so what I wanted to say next is that the competition did not necessarily give me a formula on how to become the best speaker or how to win the competition or whatsoever, but instead it gave me the opportunity to win and fail or succeed and fail, and most importantly, learn from it as well. I am sincerely grateful for the experience, the people who were with me and who believed in my own capability and my possibility as well. And at the same time, the people who were generous enough to share their time and their expertise, mentoring me and training me as well. Those are things that I will be bringing with me as I move forward. And of course, I did not leave the contest thinking, now I know how to win it. or now or next time I will win it. Like it was not like that, but instead I left the contest thinking and believing that I have in me the innate capacity and capability to actually improve for as long as I don't stop learning from my own experience and from other people as well. So I guess what I would like to leave you with is this question. Allow me to read it. What if becoming a better communicator is not about finding the perfect way to communicate, but about becoming better at noticing what works, what doesn't, and who you want to become? That is a question that I'm still sitting with. And perhaps that is also a question that you may want to consider as you move forward into becoming a better communicator and speaker and even leader yourself. There you have it, everyone. Thank you so much for reaching this far of the episode and listening to the lessons I've gained from my very first speech contest. I think the other question is, will I be competing again? Most definitely, I will, because I love to put myself in environments where I am continuously challenged. Just, to test my limits and my own capabilities or my skills as well. But yeah, before we wrap up, I would like to, of course, extend my sincerest gratitude to Bagong Pilipinas Studios for giving me the space to record this episode and, of course, for supporting Filipino creators like me. There you have it, everyone. Thank you again so much for staying until the very end. And, of course, if this episode sparked a thought, I would appreciate it if you would subscribe or follow the channel or the podcast show and join me in my journey as well, or in this journey of the podcast and my journey of becoming or exploring communication that is meaningful, impactful, and memorable. So this is again version by version, the Love Ravina podcast. I hope that you won't miss the next episode. So until next time, remember we are all a work in progress, one version at a time. I'll see you in the next version.